Hi there, thanks for tuning in again. This is another pickup video today, another box of Spectrum goodies I've acquired off the internet, again from the Retro Cavern, so thanks again to Dennis for sorting me out another large order. It's www.theretrocavern.com if you want to hop over. It's got loads and loads of stuff on there, not just for the Spectrum but also the Commodore 64, Amstrad, and a few consoles as well, hardware and software, and a few magazines as we'll see here. So, on with the show. Let's have a look what we picked up. As usual, I've gone for a mix of games that I haven't played before that interest me, and a few classics that I wanted to revisit again. So first up we have a real favourite of mine, River Rescue, but I've only ever played the alternative re-release. So I remember that it was released by Sparklers, which was, I think, a software label for Thorn EMI. So I saw Dennis had the River Rescue, the original release, quite cheap. This is a really underrated game for the Spectrum. It originally came out on the VIC-20, I think, and the Spectrum version is converted from one of the conversions from there. The VIC-20 version is quite different to the other conversions, but it's still a great game. No screenshots or anything, but basically I suppose you could describe it as a horizontally scrolling River Rescue, River Raid, and it's got a really neat sort of risk-reward mechanic in it, in that you berth your ship on the north side of the river, and a scientist that you're supposed to be rescuing hops on, and then you let them off on the south side of the river. But of course you can only do one at a time, so you have to decide whether to keep picking up the scientists and double your reward each time that you drop them all off. But of course if you crash into one of the many obstacles on the river in the meantime, then unfortunately all the scientists you've got on board drown and you lose a life, lose a boat. So that's River Rescue, really neat little game, quite playable little game. Glass, which I did have this back in the day. It was a shoot 'em up, really great little cover there for Glass. Quite astounding graphics for this, really. It really sort of wooed you in the loading screen. The main game wasn't quite as impressive as this. Sorry, it's not a loading screen, it is actually an in-game screen. Really a lot of fun, this game, so I thought I'd pick this one up again from Quicksilver. It's quite cheap as well, so it was worth it. This is one of the games I haven't heard of. It's called Havoc, as you can see. Rather odd cover. Didn't even say who it's by, but I think it says it there. It's by Dynavision by the look of it. So never heard of them, never heard of Havoc. Screenshots on the back make it look like a Zaxxon clone of some sort. So there you go, Havoc. It was fun loading that one up and seeing what that's about. Agent X2, I love the original Agent X, but I've never played this sequel. I don't think it's as good, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. So it's Agent X2. Another game I've not heard of, Alien Attack. Quite a generic type of name, and it's by a company called ACE, Advanced Computer Entertainment, which I think was also the name of a magazine as well, a few years later or around the same time. So no screenshots or anything like that, misspelt cursor joystick there, but yeah, don't know anything else about this game, so it'd be quite interesting to load this one up. Usually with a lot of these games, I could of course easily go on World of Spectrum or another website, Spectrum website, and find out all about them, but I like to load them up without knowing anything, just to see how my reactions are to the game without knowing anything about it. So this is from 1984, that game, Alien Attack. Heard a lot about this one, but I've never played it. It's another one for my Firebird collection, the Wild Bone. It's obviously a Wild West themed game. I think that was a re-release. Bear Bother. Now I have played this one before. It's of course by John Rittman. I've got most of John's games. I'm a big fan of Match Day and Match Day 2 and Head Over Heels, of course. So I thought I'd pick up this one of his original games for Arctic by J. Rittman. Moving swiftly on, we've got Titan by Titus. Titus weren't the best publisher on the Spectrum. They're a bit latter era and they didn't do a lot of great games, but I'd never heard of this one, and it looks kind of neat from the screenshots. There's a screenshot of the Spectrum version in the middle there. Looks kind of like a Gauntlet clone, of which there were lots, of course. Looks like it got good reviews on the Amstrad, but nothing mentioned about the Spectrum, so it'd be interesting to play Titan and see what that's about. Another T game, we've got Trap by Alligator. Now I believe this was one of Alligator's latter games on the Spectrum. They weren't a huge Spectrum publisher, and I think it's just a shoot 'em up. I seem to remember it being reviewed in Crash a few years ago, and I think it even made it on the cover of a rival magazine to Crash. Coded by a chap called Rich Stevenson on the Spectrum, who I'm friends with on Facebook, and we've discussed it a couple of times, so I thought it'd be about time I picked up a copy of Trap to see what it's all about. Arcade conversion, Vindicators. As you can see, you control a tank in this arcade game. I haven't played the original arcade game or the Spectrum version, so it'll be quite interesting to play Vindicators by Joe Mark. Ninja Spirit. Ninjas were very popular in the late 90s, thanks to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and this is a game that I've not heard of. It looks quite neat from the screenshots, but of course they're not from the Spectrum, from the Atari ST. I believe it's another arcade conversion, so it's from Activision. Lots more games to get through here. Call Me Psycho by Pirate Software. Never heard of this one either. Don't even know if it's a re-release. The name is familiar, so I think that might be a re-release. But it looks like just like a run and gunner from the screenshots. 180 by Mastertronic. Had this game back in the day and absolutely loved it, so I thought I should give it, put it in my collection again. Quite a quirky take on darts, and obviously quite limited, but really fun to play. Pickford Brothers. Another Mastertronic game I've never played. I had heard of it. It's called A Ticket to Ride. As usual, if you've heard any of these games or played them, or you're a big fan of them, then let me know in the comments, please. Viper 3, another Mastertronic game. See this one for sale a lot, but don't have it in my collection, so I thought I'd give it a go. I assume it's some sort of shoot 'em up again, maybe a Centipede clone, bearing in mind the cover. So let's pick a couple more single cassette ones. We've got Sheer Panic by Vision. Again, it's just a random game I've picked from the website, and just thought it looked quite good from the cover. Don't know anything about it. It's by Visions, obviously, who were based in Felgate Mews, Studland Street in London. So there you go. Sheer Panic. Planetoids. Unbelievably, I haven't got a copy of Planetoids. Well, now I have. I remember this game being reviewed back in the day. It has really neat graphics. Yeah, there's some nice looking graphics there. I'm not sure if that's the specky version, but anyway, I remember in Crash it looked quite good. Agent Orange by A&F, so I didn't know they were still going then. So there you go. Army Moves, the infamous Army Moves. Got a bit of love-hate relationship with Dynamic, like a lot of specky gamers. Army Moves was, in my opinion, a grossly unfair game. It looked good in the screenshots, as you can see here, very colourful, lots of colour clash in it. Wouldn't have minded that too much if the game had been quite playable, but it was quite horrible in places. Never actually owned an original copy of this. I think it was only really surpassed in the difficulty stakes by Navy Moves, its sequel. What I didn't like about this, there's two things I didn't like about it. First of all, if you died, you went right back to the start of the level, which always annoyed me. And secondly, I think it had quite poor collision detection as well, which obviously is a bit of an unfair way of making the game harder. So I'm interested to try this again and see if my memory serves me correctly and is indeed just as frustrating to play today. So I think that's all for the games. As you may know, I love an issue of Crash, so I've bought some more here. And these are a few gaps I've got in my collection. First of all, we've got number 64 from May 1989, so a latter one. No tape on this one, as far as I can tell. No tape. Crash didn't do tapes every month, and this issue they didn't have one, which was either good or a bad thing, depending on the point of view. So lots of reviews and stuff as usual, but it's starting to look a bit thinner. Crash, how many pages? Yes, under 100 pages. So an earlier issue here, really good condition, issue 13. Which really was just a little bit before my time with the Specky, but a great issue for Spectrum fans. Lots of great games on there, and this really is a classic here. Yeah, well over 100 pages for this issue of Crash, and some great reviews. Infamous review of Match Day there. It only scored, well, only, but it scored just under 90%. Another later issue, October 1988. Still lots of pages here, and an extra mag, all-time greats. Wonder if that's in there. I have to check, see if that's in there. I think it is, because it feels quite thick, this issue. Leaderboard on the cover, which was a great golfing game. And lots more issues of Crash. What have we got here? We have got issue number 10 from November 1984. So this was definitely before my time. And a nice Ollie Frey cover, Battlefield joystick. So a really emotive cover there of a joystick battle station being attacked by various enemies. So quite a little issue that by the look of it. And then we got some latter issues. I'm not really too bothered about the latter issues, but they tend to be quite cheap, so I thought I'd pick up a few of them as well. So this one is from May 1990. I still had a Spectrum then, but I was really only playing the cover games. I was taking the games off and then not really doing a lot else with the magazine. And to be honest, the games that Crash had were not great. I've never heard of Surface Tension, but Scuba Dive was a very old game, and Nuclear Countdown, a budget game from Atlantis. So I don't think the games would have interested me too much. I probably played Scuba Dive before. And I think even they're recycling old Ollie covers here as well. That's issue 76 from May 1990. Issue 82 from November 1990. It's got an original Ollie cover, this one. As you can see, they're starting to cover the Sam, the rather ill-fated attempt to extend the life of the 8-bits. And the scoop on the cover is Saint Dragon, which is quite a nifty game that was released in November of 1990. Moving swiftly on, another newer issue, so to speak, and we've got issue 68 from September 1989. So I think this was about the time when Crash really started to change and went from being a good read to basically a pamphlet, which is where I think a lot of us lost interest in it that were fans from more or less the start. Yeah, issue 68 only has 50 pages in it, so there's still a few reviews and stuff in this. I'll do a look through some of these in a separate video, but yeah, Crash really wasn't the magazine that we'd grown up with by this point, which was a bit of a shame. So there you go, there's my latest pickup video. I'll post another video soon, and thanks for watching. Bye.